public hearing to order. First, let's start off with the roll call. Let the record show that Supervisors Savavic, Cassiola, Flair, Ezio, and Fisher are in attendance. First item up on the agenda is item number 084-2018. Consider the application number 2018008 of a request for conditional use approval by Kids Kollege Learning Center for a child care service facility, location 125 Technology Drive, SD Zoning District. Applicant Morris Howard Enterprises, DBA Kids Kollege Learning, property owner Rich Barcelona. May I have called to swearing in Jamie Belfort.
Anyone who's going to give testimony in this matter, if you'll raise your right hand, stand for me, please, and raise your right hand. Is anyone else going to give testimony in this matter? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, thank you.
Very well. And Christy, if you'd like to go to the microphone. There's 3 total. Let's share this. Wait, front, yeah, if you would take it out of the stand, that may work best, but speak slowly and into the mic.
Okay.
So that the recorder can hear.
Yes, sir.
And for the record, state your name and your address, please.
Okay, Crystal Morris. You want the business address or my address?
Your address.
Okay, 2006 Tallgrass Lane, Canonsburg, PA 15317.
Very well. And begin your...
I've never done this before, so I don't know what I'm supposed to present. Basically, we are a child care center out of, we have 2 locations, one in San Antonio, Texas, a second in Shreveport, Louisiana, and we were asked to make our 3rd location here in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania, in the South Point community, because there was a need. And so we came, we did our presentation, we found a location according to licensing. We met the requirements for the location for licensing, and now we're just trying to go through the board to do conditional use because it is a, I guess, a multi-occupant building. And I know they had a child care center there years ago, but we have to basically start all the way over. And so we're at the step for licensing to where we have to produce a certificate of occupancy before we can go any further to get a license for the actual child care center. And when I went to the planning commission, Gateway had a few things that we had to take care of before. One of the things was the outdoor play area, but during that meeting we decided just to scratch the outdoor play area because according to licensing, we don't have to have a play area outdoor, we just have to provide them with a space to play. And so there is enough room inside. So we're going to do an indoor gymnasium versus an outdoor play area. And it will actually work for the weather as well. So they will still get their 90 minutes of play a day, and it'll just be on the inside instead of outside. Also, parking was a concern. So we got with Mr. Barcelona, and in the roundabout, those first 4 parking spots, for the first hour and a half that we're open, and the last hour and a half that we close, they would be designated strictly for the parents who drop off and pick up their children. We open at 6 a.m., we close at 10, so there's no direct conflict in the traffic of the other tenants in the building. And so we were able to come through, actually modify that, remedy that situation. And I think those
What
are
are those
our
hours again that you said?
I'm sorry? 6 a.m. in the morning to 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
Yes, sir. So we do extended care.
Well, then, what's your proposal for the spaces in the other hours that's not designated for your drop-off? What's the designation so people know that?
Well, we will have our signs out. They actually come to put our signs in on Friday. And so we have the roundabout that will have those 4 spots. And then if you, I don't know if it's passed around, but if you look at the parking spot, its parking spaces right next to the sidewalk. And so the first 6 parking spots next to the sidewalk will be designated for Kids Kollege. And we will have the times on there because most of the tenants in the building do not arrive at the building until 9 o'clock. And so we open at 6, and we also do what we call curbside drop-off and pickup. So for the first hour and a half of the day, we're actually outside, so it's not like a parking. They sign in, we do curbside drop-off and pickup like the regular schools, and then we take the kids inside, so it's a steady flow of traffic versus the parking, so that we won't interfere with any of the parking for the other tenants.
You mentioned that you're going to do extended day for the schools in Kenneth Ellen, or just extended day in that you go later than 6 p.m.?
Just extended hours that we go later than 6
So you will
p.m.
not provide any transportation back
We
and
will,
forth?
we will not provide any transportation back and forth to school. Not yet, that is our goal, but because we're open for the summer, we're just trying to, basically do the rest of the school year and
Yeah,
then
that's
summer
fine.
here.
I was just curious.
Yeah, we will eventually do transportation, but there are other rules for licensing for transportation, and so we're just gonna cut that out for right now and just focus on the basic care, and then we'll pick up transportation later.
So there's going to be signs on those first couple of spots that regular tenants can't use it during certain hours, but after those hours, like say after 10 o'clock, they can pull in those spots.
Yes, sir. Well, actually, from 6 o'clock a.m. to 8:30 a.m., and then anytime after 8:30, if they're in those spots, they're in those spots. And then it picks up again for 6 o'clock p.m. to 8:30 p.m.
All right, but we were always told that there was just overabundance of parking on those
It really
buildings.
is. It's 200, over 200 parking spots.
Right, and
But-
they're hard to use, so, I mean, why aren't,
That was one of the questions for the planning commission. They wanted to make sure we had designated parking. So I went to Mr. Barcelona and, agreed to give us designated parking so that we met the accommodations for what the planning commission was asking us for. We don't need those spots because we have so many parking spots. Nobody uses the lot. I think you might have like a row of cars that are used, and then the rest of the parking lot is open, but
right, that's what I'm saying, why instead of just saying that they're only reserved till 8:30, why can't they be permanently reserved for parents to pick up, or sometimes they'll pick up during the day if there's a kid that has an appointment or something like that?
I mean,
Why,
we can make it for whatever time. He just said those were our slots. I know in our other centers, because we use, like we have a strip mall, and the one in San Antonio, we're in a strip mall, so we had designated hours because,
I understand, but if there was a shortage of parking was a premium at that building, I could see the owner not wanting to give up some spots permanently right near your entrance, but that's just not the case at all, and I think those parents should have some priority on at least a couple spots right there.
okay. I mean, he said that we could have whatever we wanted, he would work with us, and so that's just what we presented to him. So if you want it to be permanently, then we can just put the hours, well, we don't even have to put hours on it, you can just say reserved for Kids College drop-off and pick up.
Right, and I mean, let's assume the rest of the board concurs, I'd like to put that in as a condition,
Okay.
The way conditional use hearing works, as you said you weren't familiar with it.
Yes,
There's a list of standard conditions, they're called express criteria, and standards that are in the book already that you have to meet. We know the Department of Welfare handles their own area of that control. The purpose of the conditional use hearing is to talk to you now, and if there's any extra conditions on your unique spot that we see separate that isn't already listed in the book, that's why we come up with, could come up with extra conditions.
Yes, sir.
That's why it's called conditional use.
Okay.
So, again, I was going to make that as a suggestion, that's one of the conditions tonight is here.
Yes, sir, so just don't put the time on there at all, and just say reserved for Kids College, and those are just the slots, period.
Yes.
Okay.
And how many slots are you proposing? Because I know we need 4 for visitors under Article 13 and then 1 for each staff member. Are you proposing to have 4 designated visitor spots? Tom, as a
I think
condition?
the staff isn't quite as important, they can,
Yeah.
their staff, they can park in a major
She
parking
said
lot.
there are 6 reserved.
Yeah, I guess
Okay, so you exceed the amount.
4 and 2, I mean,
Well, technically, it's 4 in the roundabout, and then it's the 6 right next to the sidewalk,
So
so
it's
it's a total of
10.
10.
Oh,
well, so the 4 in the roundabout, is that, where's the staff gonna park, where they're gonna be told to park?
The staff is going to park by the back fence next to the dumpster.
So they're not even on these spots?
They're not, no, the staff is not in Kids College spots, no. That's strictly for the parents. The reserved spots are strictly for the parents to drop off and pick up.
So I missed, how many do you have altogether
10,
for your operation?
yes,
Yeah.
sir.
And how many we're
10 for
gonna,
the parents.
oh, all right.
10 for parent drop off and pick up, and then the staff is like, kind of like a restaurant where you park in the back.
Right, so there's 10 that they have. 4 of them are gonna be released at 8:30.
Yes, sir, because we still have other deliveries that come through the roundabout, so we can't hold up the entire roundabout. That's strictly just for the drop-off of people who are not gonna get out of their car, and they're gonna pull up and sign their kids in and drop off. That's all the roundabout is for.
Excluding the 4 in the roundabout, there's still
There's still
6
Yes, ma'am.
parking spots that,
That are strictly for the parents, strictly for Kids Kollege.
I think that's great.
Yes, sir.
I just think they should be permanent.
Yes, okay.
Excuse me, when you said he was willing to work with you, that's who? Rich Barcelona?
Rich Barcelona, yes, sir.
do you have an idea of how many kids you will have in your facility at one time?
Based on the measurements, we can have up to 104. But because we're taking out one of the rooms and turning it into a gymnasium, it drops us down to about 65.
Okay.
But our goal is to start with 48. We don't want to go over 48 right now because we want to sort of because Pennsylvania is new to us, so we want to make sure we are running smoothly before we try and reach the max.
How many staff members will you have for 48 children?
For 48 children, depending on which age group we have, we would have to have anywhere from 8 to 12. So if majority of our numbers are younger children, we will be closer to the 12 than the 8. But if it's older, we will be closer to the 8 because it's based on the age. So for 3 or 5 years old, you can have 15 kids to one staff. But for the younger, you can have 6 to 1. And then the second you go, it's the 7th child, you have to have an extra staff member. So it all depends on how many children are actually, the age of the kids who are actually enrolled. So anywhere from 8 to 12 staff.
For emergency situations, this is the bottom floor, 004.
Yes, sir.
Is there another exit?
Yes, sir. There are actually 3 exits out. And so if you look on, I think it's page 3, it'll say the evacuation plan. It shows the evacuation plan of how to actually get out of the building into our safe spot.
But there's a slope there, correct, in the front of the building?
There's a slope in the front of the building, which is why we're not using the front, we're using the back because there's stairs. And then it takes us to basically a fenced area behind the trash can, which is approximately 100 feet away from the building. So I picked the fenced area because it gets them safe enough, and then once we get the children inside the area, they're corralled in a space to where everybody's accounted for versus just standing in the middle of the parking lot. So.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, what are your plans for security?
We actually have, they come in next week to install our cameras, so we will have a coded lock on the door. So you have to know the code to actually get in. You'll be on camera. There's a camera at every entrance, exit, and in every room, and the parents will have the codes to the camera to just watch their child in that room. So for security, outside of the burglar alarm system, it's basically cameras because we can't have any armed guards or anything around children anyway.
So they can watch like from an app on their phone?
It's an app and it's on the vehicle, but they can only log into the room for their child. So
Right.
they will only get that code.
Crystal, did you say you're not having any outdoor play area?
No outdoor play area
So
because
this don't apply.
the outdoor play area has to be connected to the building for that to work for safety hazards, and there's no way to make that happen because of the slope. The Bailey Center is on a hill, so there's no safe way to make that happen.
Okay. And do you also already have your license from the Commonwealth?
I can't get my license without the certificate of occupancy, so we're at that step. We turned in all of the paperwork, we've done the training, so we're just at the step for the use of the building, so.
Okay. And you'll provide that to the township? If they approve it, you'll provide that
Yes,
once you get it?
when they approve it, and I send a copy wherever I need to send a copy to.
Any other questions from our board? Any comments from the floor? Very well. Let us call this hearing over, and then we will most likely be able to vote on it at our next meeting right after this.
Okay.
But that I should state, while we do have the record, that just to say publicly that this public hearing was duly advertised on April 4th.